Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back. Today you join me in the 2024 Volkswagen Tiguan, a compact family SUV that's proven very popular here in the UK, and this new one is a big upgrade over the previous generation. It's got a totally new design that's reminiscent of some of Volkswagen's newer stuff like the ID3, and it proves to be a big upgrade on the tech front inside the car as well. So the Tiguan comes with a choice of two mild hybrid 1.5 TSI engines, one of which is 130 horsepower, one of which is 150. You've also now got the option of a 2-litre TDI 150, which is really good because a lot of manufacturers have discontinued their diesels now, and some people do still prefer them, let's be honest, for those long distance journeys. There's also two plug-in hybrid options coming, one with 204 and one 272, so that's going to be the more powerful of the lot, and two standard petrol engines, 2-litre TSI, 204 and 265, so quite a lot of engine choices to choose from, including those plug-in options. Now, unfortunately, all models are front-wheel drive only, which is a bit of a miss to be fair, because there are quite a lot of rivals now that have either rear-wheel drive options or four-wheel drive. But this isn't really made to be an off-roader, is it? It's made to be a little family car, and that's what it delivers on. It's basically a Golf, but larger. Pricing starts from around £34,000, and that gets you into a entry-level model that has things like rear camera, LED lights, front assist, lane change assist and things like that, which isn't too bad as a standard set list. You can upgrade to 36 grand match model, which includes things like electric tailgate, LED light bars, including the animations, which are really nice when you unlock and lock the car, and also keyless entry. The top of the range model is around £39,000, so you can either go for the Elegance or the R-Line. The one I'm in today is the Elegance model, and it's kind of the more subdued of the two, and the R-Line is the more sporty, but they have similar levels of equipment. So massage seats, which are heated, a 360-degree camera, which is pretty decent, and ambient lighting, and a few other tricks like that. So when you think about the pricing then, it is in kind of a similar realm to the BMW X1 and also the Audi Q3, so it has a lot to live up to. But I suppose equipment levels on this will be better from standard. By default across the range, you get this 10.25-inch virtual cockpit dashboard, and by default you get a 12.9-inch display, which is pretty good. The infotainment system has been significantly upgraded over previous gen Volkswagen, which was a complaint before. This particular car is fitted with the optional 15-inch display with the head-up display. By default, it's got lane keep assist and that kind of thing. You've also got blind spot monitoring that's just a light on the mirror, which is a pretty decent design, and the head-up display gives me a decent amount of information. In terms of the safety features, you've got the front assist. It does give you haptic feedback through the wheel and steer you in lane, and also give you warnings on both the head-up display and audibly when you're straying lanes and things like that, but it's not as intrusive and annoying as in things like Kias and Hyundais. The one I'm driving today is a 1.5 TSI 150, so it's not the top of the range at all. It's a 7-speed DSG, which actually is a really nice box, and it claims to get around 43 mpg. One thing I will say is that the plug-in hybrid options are pretty good on battery, so a lot of plug-in hybrids from days gone would only get around 30 miles on electric only. This does around 62 miles if you get the plug-in version, and that's pretty decent. You can probably potter around town quite a bit on that and just keep it charged up, and it's good for around 500 miles of range, including the petrol and the electric combined if you keep it charged. Let's talk a little bit about the styling of the car. I actually think it's quite a good looking thing. I'm not too much of a fan of this metallic green paint, but it does look quite modern, and also I really do like the modern Volkswagen IQ lighting system. The options list unfortunately can get pretty expensive, so you've got things like pan roof, which is around 1,300 quid, and then you've also got optional LED matrix lights which have up to 38,000 micro LEDs, which make really fine adjustments in terms of your high beam assist, and they're probably some of the best in class. You can also opt for DCC Pro, which is their new suspension system, which has 2-valve shocks, which makes it a bit better on the rebound. Even on top spec cars, you have to pay over 1,400 quid to get a Harman Kardon audio system, which I think is a bit of a shame because brands like Kia are starting to include that in their top spec cars as standard. I do think the old Tiguan looked a little bit more bold, a little bit more broad-shouldered. This one does look a little bit soft, but that kind of goes with their current design language with the ID range, so I do understand where they're going with it. I do like the new light design, and also the light bar with the animations does make for some nice effects, which I'm pretty pleased with overall. It's not as sharp as something like a Kia Sportage though. That's very angular. This is much safer as a shape. This, of course, being the Elegance model opposed to the R-Line, does get some more subdued bumper styling as well. Step inside, and it is quite a stylish interior. You've got lots of gloss black, which you know, is a bit of a blessing and a curse. It does look good, but it does get fingerprinty and smudgy quite easily. And then you've got quite a bit of ambient lighting in this higher end model as well, which is nice, and it does make for a nice effect, especially when you switch through some of the different drive modes. Everything's laid out pretty well, and you do have some sort of comfortable sized cubbies here and there. You've got an okay sized glove box, you've got a door bin which is big enough to handle a water bottle, and also you've got some center storage in here. And the stuff at the top isn't too bad, to be fair, and you do have some squishy materials up on the dash, so it makes it a little bit more upmarket. But overall, it's not the best in its class, I wouldn't say, but it's definitely passable. And also it's padded by my knee, which I think is really important. Some cars don't get that right. And you've got these kind of adjustable slidey cup holder area here. I don't really know what the point is. It's a bit of an odd layout, to be honest. You could make it a cup holder if you wanted it to, but it's just kind of a storage area, and you've got your wireless charging down here as well. But up the front here, you've got kind of like a shelf area with a grip on it, and you can lift that up, and underneath there you've got USB-C charging and 2 wireless phone chargers, which is a nice addition. Your drive select is up on a stalk on the steering wheel now, a bit like in the ID range, which takes a bit of getting used to, but I quite like. And the steering wheel, thankfully, thank you Volkswagen, has gone back to physical buttons, because I hate that capacitive touch rubbish that they kept putting on their cars for a short period of time. Some of them still have it, this one thankfully does not. What you are still stuck with though is the sliders for the climate controls, which have become more responsive over time, I must admit. And at the bottom of the infotainment screen now, you've got a permanent section for your climate controls, and also there's just like a home button right in the middle, so it's quite familiar. If you've ever used a phone or tablet, it does feel like a kind of similar experience to that. You've got a few widgets on the home screen. Overall, the system is very responsive and really good. What I do like about the infotainment is it is really slick and easy to use now. It will take a bit of getting used to compared to some cars, but once you've spent about 10 minutes with it, you should be quite familiar with it. It's got shortcut buttons at the top for things like your driving assist and driving mode and turning off your start stop. And at the bottom, you've got your climate controls and your heated seat controls. And you've got quick access to everything when you press the home button. It is a shame though that some of those physical buttons are gone, but they've definitely made up for it with some of the software updates, and this larger display does help quite a bit. The nav on it is really good as well, to be fair, and of course the navigation shows up in the virtual cockpit style area on this display in front of me. And whilst it does look a little bit busy, there is loads of information that is very useful, including all of my trip information. The speedo changes when the speed limit changes, so I can easily see what that is. And also there's lots of different views that you can scroll through to customize it to your needs and see all your information about current track playing, radio station, navigation, and your economy, etc. You've also got different experiences which you can select. You can set up a more energetic setting where it gives you a certain playlist, or increases the volume, or changes to sport mode, and you can go through those and cycle through those on this wheel down here with the screen in it, a bit like you can your drive modes and your volume controls. Overall seat comfort is quite good. I do like the materials that they use, and I've kind of got spaces for my elbows. I'm quite happy with it, and long journeys will be okay. Visibility is pretty good too. You've got large mirrors, you've got cameras all round on this one, and there is a large C-pillar which is a little bit annoying in the rear view, but it's not too much of a concern. Overall, I've got decent adjustment in this seat, and this is the massage one, which is a nice touch. And in the back, it is quite impressive, to be fair. You've got that classic headroom that you do get in the Tiguan. One thing that is disappointing though is there is a massive transmission tunnel in this one, to the point where I don't think even younger people will be too comfortable sitting in that middle seat, which is a bit of a shame. But overall practicality is good back there. You've got USB-C charging, ISOFIX points, you've got a little bit of adjustment in terms of sliding the seats forward and back to get more space in the back, and they fold relatively flat for loading as well. You've even got little pockets on the back of the seats to store your phone in and other small items, which is quite useful, I would say. Tiguan is supposed to be a mixture of tiger and iguana. And if you don't believe me, have a little look at the markings on the rear windows. That's a fun fact for you, right? In terms of rear cargo space, there is a nice flat floor. There's not too many great features back there, but there are some tie hooks and some power. There's a false floor which has some space underneath it, and you can pull the handles manually to release the rear seats and increase your load area. This does have the largest boot then of its class, and that's including stuff like the Skoda Karoq and the Kia Sportage. So it's quite impressive. So high marks for practicality. So how does it drive then? Well, I'm actually quite impressed with how smooth and easy to live with it is. This is the 1.5 150, so it's not the pokiest thing in the world, but the brakes do feel quite confidence inspiring. I do feel like for its class it is quite refined, to be fair. Overall interior quality I would say is decent. It's not the best, but it's definitely passable, and I do like the design. And although it isn't as simple to use as some of the rivals that still have physical climate controls and things like that, overall I think you'd become quite used to it quite quickly. Overall driving experience is nice and subdued for the most part. The ride is somewhat firm, but it's not terrible. It can be crashy over bumps, but not awfully so. It does provide a little bit more of a dynamic drive, which is good. The engine's reasonably peppy, and the gearbox is lovely and smooth, although I would say it can be hesitant out of junction sometimes. But of course, the plug-in hybrid options are going to have much more shove off the line, and I think will provide a really nice driving experience. In the plug-in versions, the transition between electric and petrol is really smooth as well. There's not even much wind noise, and on these wheels, not much road noise either. I'd say in terms of its price class, it is quite a decent contender in terms of how subdued the interior feel is when driving along, cruising on motorway speeds. The brakes are decent, they feel fairly responsive, and I feel some confidence in the steering, although it does tug you around a little bit with the assistance. There's not an awful lot of texture through the wheel, but the handling of the car through the bends is actually pretty decent. There's not too much body roll either, to be honest, and it doesn't understeer as heavily as you might expect for it being front-wheel drive. Overall, cruising at motorway speeds, I would say the car feels quite stable and calm, and I think it would be quite nice to live with overall. I just think the shame is with the Volkswagen products at the moment, you do have to tick a few options to really get what you want, and also it can be a little bit frustrating in terms of your user experience when it comes to the climate controls and infotainment. Overall, I'd be quite happy living with this car day to day, and even the eco features such as it dropping out of gear when you're driving along doesn't really bother me too much, and you can turn those off in the settings. Overall, there's lots of customizability with regards to the infotainment setup and the screens, and it provides quite a nice comfortable experience, although I would say over a long journey these seats might prove a little bit firm. If you can get one at the right price, I definitely think it's worth considering over some of its key rivals. But it's definitely worth when you think about the quality, also the warranty, considering some rivals such as Kia and Hyundai. So there we go then, the new Tiguan. I think it's going to prove very popular in the UK, much like the previous model, and the improvements definitely show to be worth it. So I hope you've enjoyed this review of the Tiguan. Thank you so much to Volkswagen UK for inviting me down to check out the car, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.